One of the things I'm particularly interested in now are the cartoon controversies around offensive speech in France, the Charlie Hebdo magazine, and also in Denmark from some years ago with the cartoons, and the different kinds of reactions that have occurred to these in Europe and the United States. One of the things I'm struck by is that in America there were many, there's controversy about this, but there were a number of journalists and academics who took the view that while people should have a right to publish cartoons that other people will find offensive on religious grounds, that perhaps it was not such a great idea to publish them for a variety of reasons. Partly respect for the sensibilities of moderate Muslims who find depictions of the Prophet Muhammad as at odds with their religious beliefs. So there was a much greater emphasis in the United States, it seems to me, on the importance of self-censorship as a value in a diverse democracy. Whereas in Europe, the emphasis seemed to be a greater extent, not uniformly, but to a greater extent, on the importance of policing the boundaries of free speech, including through speech that particular groups will find offensive. I think one other thing that distinguished the reactions in these two places was that many commentators in the United States emphasized that special regard should be had for the sensibilities of relatively marginalized groups in society who are relatively powerless. Whereas some of the defenders of the freedom of speech in Europe, the right to publish these cartoons, and in a way the rightness of publishing them, including Fleming Rose, the editor at the Danish newspaper who helped to preside over the publication, emphasized the importance of treating everyone equally, treating Muslims the same way as Catholic Church was being criticized in these newspapers and so on. And I'm not sure that that's correct. I think perhaps extending some special solicitude to the sensibilities of minority groups is appropriate. So I think that the greater American emphasis on self-censorship, self-restraint as an attitude that's widespread in society may, on this kind of controversy, be somewhat more helpful. For one thing, it allows us to rely less on government censorship. In Europe, again in contrast, there are more laws that are protective of particular groups against hateful speech. We tend not to have those laws in the United States, but we have more self-restraint on the part of people. And I think that that model may be preferable when it comes to handling these questions of social controversy. Now, one thing I might add is it's not necessarily because the United States is a more virtuous society. It may simply be because we're a much more diverse immigrant society, also with many, many small religious groups. So over the course of time, the practice of mutual self-restraint and not offending one another has become more prominent in society. I think that's circumstantial difference is very different. Whereas in Europe, particularly in France, the Catholic Church was one set of institutions with great power, and there's been a desire to carve out a separate space to one side of that institution, and it's led to a different sensibility of kind of robust criticism of what's seen as clerical influence in society. So there are historical reasons for this, but I think it's worth exploring these issues and perhaps appreciating the importance of certain norms of self-censorship, self-restraint, respect for the sensibility of others, especially when those groups are marginalized minorities within society. Some special effort, I think, to respect moderates, especially within this community, would be worth considering.